Today, of course, I'm not going to continue on the bank reconciliation where we need to do the questions because actually I'm doing it from my home today. Since I don't have access to the whiteboard, I may not be able to do the questions. So that's why I thought of moving into a new topic, and then next week we will come back to the bank reconciliation questions, and I'll do it probably next week, right? So today we are going to start with a new topic, which is on the trial balance, right? So as of now, we have covered several topics, and we are thorough with the double entry principles and how to make double entries pertaining to a particular transaction. And now we are getting into a more important topic where we are going to learn and look at how a trial balance, the term trial balance, I'll be explaining it, how a trial balance for an organization will look like. Okay. So, first of all, as you know, we looked at what a ledger is. As you know, that I told you all, when you do bookkeeping, you will enter each account in a separate page. And in good old days, these pages collectively, when you take all those pages collectively, it is known as a ledger, right? So, as I told you, like for each account, say for example, you might have thousands of customers. Now, these thousands of customers will have to have, each and every person should have a page. There only you will maintain the account pertaining to that particular customer. Similarly, you will maintain accounts for other purposes. So can you remember when we looked at books of prime entry, we also looked at what are real accounts and what are nominal accounts. So this ledger will consist of all these accounts. There will be real accounts, there will be nominal accounts. So you will have a wide range of accounts which is included in the ledger. Am I audible to you all?
Yes, sir.
No disturbances, right? Are you all getting any disturbances? No?
No, sir, we can hear you properly.
Right.
No, sir, it's clear.
So a general ledger contains, as I told you all type of accounts. That is, you get assets, you get liabilities, you get the owner's equity accounts, and also on top of that, if you are maintaining books of prime entry, where you will get the control accounts pertaining to the sales day book, sales return day book, purchases day book, and purchase return, and so on, right? So this is just, the diagram will give you an idea like how a ledger will look like. This is like a very fat book that is maintained in business organization. But what has happened today, in today's context, you will see that companies and businesses have moved into the computerized systems. So you don't see a physical ledger. I don't know how many of you have seen in your respective organizations a ledger, how a ledger will look like. So a ledger will have thousands and thousands of accounts. But today, all these accounts are maintained in a bit piece of, where we call it is a byte. So in this bits, you will get entire ledger is maintained, right? So even in our respective organizations, if you look at every bank today, every bank will have its own system. There will be a co-banking system which maintains all the banking transactions, and then you might have subsidiary systems to look after various other operations. Okay, so you have today the digital platforms where transactions take place, you have the ATM machines. So all these are computerized today. Just imagine a transaction were happening, like a customer having an account in Colombo would like to withdraw money from Candy. Just imagine, but in good old days it was happening. But just imagine how much of a time it would take to perform that transaction. And obviously this transaction will have to happen during business hours on a weekday, right? So, but what has happened today? A customer, wherever they go in this island, they can do a transaction without any hassle. They don't need to have the account in their respective branch. You can have the account in any place and you can do the transaction anywhere. And it is now 24/7. You can do your online transaction at any moment. So things have changed. Bookkeeping has changed. So even the concept of ledger also has changed. But just because of this business accounting module, for study purposes, we have to learn a little bit of theory. Okay. So let's look at a tabular summary. We call this as a tabular summary. And we are going to look at this as against the account form, that is the T account form. So when you look at a tabular summary where you have done certain cash transactions, right? So as I told you last week, in an account, generally what happens, you have a debit side and a credit side. So what we indicate here is the positive numbers shown as positively are the debit transactions or the debits. And what is shown in brackets is the credits. So you have received or you have paid certain transactions or you have performed certain transactions which you have listed down one after the other. And that sort of a presentation is known as a tabular summary. A tabular summary. But since we have now learned how to record transactions in a T account, let us see how these transactions can be presented in a T account. So I have taken the same set of transactions and recorded them in the account, cash account, where the debits have been recorded on the left side and the credits have been recorded on the right side. Okay. So now we have to do a bit of balancing, of this account. Right. Now let's balance this account, see whether you can balance it. How you will balance it? So you have to total the transactions on the left side as well as on the right side. And you will take the highest total, that is the largest total you will take. So in this case, you have 15 plus 16,200 plus 600 means 16,800. And on the right side, you have 7,000, 7,600, 8,500, 8,750. So 16,800 is your total, right? 16,800 will be your total. So when you put that total, what will happen? There will be a difference or there will be a balancing amount in the account. How much is that? That is this 8,050. 8,050. So you will have a balance carried forward and a balance brought forward. Balance carried forward and a balance brought forward. So what will happen? Now this account is balanced and we are taking forward the balance to the next period. When you say next period, it could be the next day, it could be the next month, or it could be the next year, right? So in organizations, you have to do a balancing of all your accounts. Now today what is happening, due to the use of computer systems, the balancing happens automatically. So there is no manual intervention where we will try to balance the account to carry forward the balance. Okay, this is the simplest example that I can show you for a simple set of transactions presented in an account and how you will arrive at the balance carried forward. Of course, I have missed the two totals. You have to put down the totals also. In between the two 8,050s, you should have the total. So total will be 16,800 on both sides. Okay, right. Now, the balance that we are getting here, the 8,050 is called the closing balance. Is called the closing balance. So when you are doing a balancing of an account, it will have a balancing figure. Now in this case, it is very clear we have 8,050. So this 8,050 will be the closing balance of your account. Closing balance of your account. So likewise, just imagine how much of closing balances you will have in your ledger. For each and every account, you have to perform this function and you have to carry forward the balance, which is the identification of the closing balance. Now, in this particular scenario, can you tell me the closing balance, is it a debit balance or a credit balance? What do you think?
Debit balance.
It's a debit balance. Very good. So you can decide on that in two ways. One is where you understand that normally assets should have a debit balance, but it need not be. It need not be, because last week I explained to you all the bank account generally expected to be in debit, but there are instances where it can turn into credit also. When it turns on to a credit, how do you call it? How do you call it? When a bank account turns into credit, as per your records.
Favorable.
Pardon?
Favorable balance.
No. Now,
Overdraft.
Yes, very good. It has to be called as an overdraft, because generally, as per your records, not as per the bank records, I am asking as per your records, your bank account should have a debit balance. But there could be instances where it can turn into credit also. So when it turns into credit, we call it as a overdraft, where it will be a liability of yours, where you will have to settle the bank. You will have to settle the bank. So in this scenario, what we have here is a debit balance. So this debit balance will be the account balance for any purposes of your reporting. That is where we are heading towards. Ultimately, even in this course, our ultimate objective is towards that. How do we prepare our financial statements? So whatever that we are learning throughout this course will be ultimately, I might not say course, it will be the module that we are covering. Likewise, you are doing several other modules. So in this module, what will we do? We will learn everything with the ultimate objective of how to prepare a financial set of financial statements, how to interpret those financial statements, and how do we analyze those financial statements. That is our ultimate objective. Of course, on top of that, you will have the requirement to get through these exams also. Okay, right. So what is actually a trial balance? A trial balance is a list of balances of all your accounts in the general ledger at a given time. Very important, please, if you have a handout, a copy of the handout, please underline the term at a given time. Very important, because the trial balance that we look at has to be as at a particular time period. When you say time period, it's on a particular time, right? So a trial balance is actually a list of account balances, So in the earlier example, this is the cash account. So cash account has a balance of 8,050. So likewise, what do you mean by a trial balance? They say a trial balance is a list of balance or balances of all accounts. So you will have cash account, you will have electricity, you will have water, you will have bank account. So you will have to extract the balances in all those accounts. But when generally we say it is at a given time, The primary purpose of a trial balance is to prove the mathematical equality of debits and credits. That is very, very important. Why we need to have a trial balance? What is the purpose of having a trial balance? So the trial balance is actually tries to prove something. What is it? It is the mathematical equality. What do you mean by the mathematical equality? Now, when we generate journals means you generate transactions. So for all transactions, you have to remember that we are required to follow the double entry principle. What does the double entry principle say? For every debit that you generate, there has to be a credit or multiple credits. Similarly, for every credit, there should be a single debit or a multiple debit, right? So when a transaction happens, there will be a debit total and a credit total pertaining to that transaction. The totals of the debits should always agree with the total of credits. That is what the double entry principle is. Now, when we do transactions, we will be mindful about this, right? When we do transactions, we will be mindful about this. Now, even in your organization, if you are a teller means a front-end staff member performing transactions with your customers. So in a particular day, you might start with a certain amount of cash balance. Let's say you might start with 500,000. Now, starting with this 500,000, you might perform a lot of transactions. People might come and deposit money with you. People might come and withdraw from you. So there might be a lot of things happening over the counter. You will perform all these transactions, the cash related transactions pertaining to your customers, and end of the day, you do a balancing. So why do you want to do this balancing? That is to ensure whatever the account balance that is reflected as cash balance should be in agreement with the cash that you are holding. That is, the notes and coins that you are holding with you, with the amount that you started, is what should be there in the account as cash. So why do we do this activity? This is because it will be an internal control where you will have some control over what is happening in the bank. As a teller, when you perform, it is your responsibility to manage the cash and ensure the transactions that you are performed ultimately results in a equality. That is, the based on the transaction, the account balance and what you hold physically should be in agreement. Now, similarly, in business concerns, when we perform transactions, this is the place where we ensure the accuracy of our transaction. But this doesn't mean, when you say accuracy, it doesn't mean whether you have passed the debits and credits to the correct accounts and so on, is not that. Whether you have performed all the transactions where the debit total is equivalent to the credit total. That is why we say the primary purpose of a trial balance is to prove the mathematical equality. Why do we say mathematical equality? Because you need to know whether the debit totals that you have posted is in agreement with the credit total. Agreement with the credit total. So, a trial balance will also ensure that the errors that you may perform or do at the point of journalizing and posting. Okay, it happens generally in businesses. It happens where you will perform a transaction with 2 debits and a credit, but when you take the total of the 2 debits and the credit, it doesn't agree. It doesn't agree. But what does the trial balance try to ensure is that you have not performed any transactions of that kind. If the mathematical equality is proved, which means all the transactions that you have performed where the debit total was in agreement with the credit total. Right. So we'll see how to prepare a trial balance. First, what you have to do, you have to list all the accounts. Whatever the accounts that you have to list them all. Right? Then, total in the debits and the credit columns. So we will have a list of account, and you will have 2 more columns to reflect the debits and the credits. If the 2 columns, the total of the 2 columns are equal, then we say that the mathematical equality is established. Mathematical equality is established. Now, this is one such example where you get the list of accounts on the left side. You see description, and you get drawings, capital accounts, supplies, purchases, sales. Likewise, you have listed all the accounts. Alongside that, you have 2 more columns. One column is to reflect the debits and one column to reflect the credits. So based on the account and their balance, you will put the balances in the respective columns. An account having a debit balance will go into the debit column. An account with a credit balance will go into the credit column. And after putting all the balances into the respective columns, when you take a total, you should see both the totals are equal. Now, in this case, it is 756,500 in both the cases. Now, this is just to ensure that there is mathematical equality. There will be mathematical equality. That is what we are trying to establish. Okay? Now, what are the limitations of a trial balance? Now, after preparing a trial balance, whether there are any issues. The trial balance will ensure the mathematical equality, but is that only it has? Whether there could be any issues. So that is what we are trying to understand. Limitation of a trial balance. A trial balance does not prove that all transactions have been recorded or that the ledger is correct. That you need to understand. Now, just because that you have just because your trial balance is equal, it doesn't mean that you have captured all the transactions, right? Now, what happens? I'm just giving you a practical example. You have accepted a deposit from a customer for 20,000 rupees, right? The customer was very busy. Let's say he was in a hurry. He just wanted to go back. So he comes to you over the counter. He gives you the 20,000 and the deposit slip, and he just goes away without even waiting to collect the counterfoil of your deposit slip. Now, since the customer has gone back, you also have forgotten to perform that transaction. So what you have done, you have just accepted the 20,000 and you have kept it in your drawer without performing the transaction in the system. Okay. Now the day comes to an end. Actually speaking, you have not performed this transaction in your system, isn't it? Because the customer was in a hurry, so he has gone back. You also have forgotten to perform that transaction and you have kept the money away. So the transaction has been totally not performed. But what will happen? At the end of the day, when you are doing a balancing of your cash, what will happen? Your actual cash position as per the system will not be in agreement with the physical cash that you have. Why? There will be an excess 20,000 which you have not accounted. So that is why in the banks or maybe in any business, there is a physical count of cash at the end of the day. That is to ensure the account balance and the physical cash that we hold are equal. So when a trial balance is balanced means it doesn't ensure or it doesn't prove that all the transactions have been recorded in the ledger. There could have been omissions as well. Numerous errors may exist even though the trial balance columns agree. So now we are like contradicting. Initially we said when the two totals are agreed, that is a perfect trial balance where the mathematical equality is proved. But now we say there could be numerous errors even though the trial balance columns agree. Right? So let's see how that is possible. Right? I don't know whether I can get an example from here. Okay, let's say. Now, when you look at this example, you see capital account, your balance is 80,000. Credit balance. Sundry debtors, your balance is 80,000 debit. So what I do, for the capital account, I will put this 80,000 credit balance on the debit side. And for the sundry debtors, the 80,000 debit balance, I will put it on the credit side. Now what happens? The trial balance will balance, isn't it? Even when I put the balances into the wrong place, the trial balance will balance. But am I presenting the correct account balance? When I say capital account, it should have a debit balance. No, sorry, it should have a credit balance. But I am trying to show a debit balance. When you say sundry debtors, it should be a debit balance. Whereas my trial balance will show a credit balance. So do you understand that even when you say the trial balance is equal, but there could be numerous errors? So they say a trial balance may even balance when a transaction is not journalized. That is what I told you now. The 20,000 deposit, you have not considered at all. You have not journalized at all. The correct journal entry is not posted. You have not posted the transaction at all. That is a possibility. A journal entry is posted twice. There comes. A transaction is performed twice. Possible. Now, say sometimes what happens, you perform a transaction and you keep it and you go for lunch. When you come back after lunch, you see this transaction lying on your table and you are not sure whether you have performed it earlier or not, and you go and enter it again. Now, what happens? The transaction is duplicated. We call it as transaction getting duplicated. Now, this has happened in so many instances where even customers will come and tell you, look, my account has been debited twice, to see that it is an error. Sometimes, due to some failures, the account might have 2 withdrawals from your account due to system errors. So when the customers comes and complain, you might go into the account and see there is a duplication of the entry. Okay, so that is due to a system error or anywhere. But even due to a human error, a transaction can get posted twice. So what does all these will do? Even with all these problems, when you extract a trial balance, it will still balance. It will still balance, isn't it? Where you do not journalize a transaction, you do not post a transaction because the debit and credit both are not posted. Or when you post a transaction twice, still the trial balance will balance. So all these can happen when? Oh, sorry, even when there is one more. Incorrect accounts are used in journalizing or posting. So you make a payment for electricity, but you go and post it to the water account, water bills account. Possible. Then there could be offsetting errors. Like the example that I showed you. Instead of putting it on the credit column, you put it on the debit column. Similarly, you put the surrender debtors on the credit column. So that's an offsetting error. One error offsets the other. So there is no issue to the trial balance. Right. Now, this is an example. Okay. This is an example. Yeah.
Sir, could you please give me a brief introduction to the compensating errors with regard to the trial balance?
We will do that. Don't worry. We have another topic there. We will separate. We have a topic there separately that we will go through the errors.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Right. So let's look at this question now. This is an extract of account balances. Right. So I want you to now do it quickly. Put it into a trial balance format. Put it into a trial balance format quickly. It will take about 2-3 minutes and you have to do it. So how will be the template would be? Template would be like this one, right? Where you have to say the company name, then you have to say trial balance, and it is as of when, and then you will say the description, debit and credit, and then you will put the list. So see whether you can do it quickly. So the trial balance is given. So what is the first step that you do? Because this is very important. When you go to the exam also, sometimes you might be given a list of account balances like this, where you will have to prepare the trial balance. So tell me how we can approach this question. So the first thing that you do is, actually, you need to go through these accounts. You need to go through these accounts. Sorry. And you need to identify each of these accounts, whether they fall into which category, right? Whether it is an asset, liability, equity, income, or expense. Because in this question, if you see, this is just a list of account balances. Now they say cash in hand 4,200. That is 4,200 million. 4.2 billion actually. So when you say 4.2 billion, what is it? Is it a credit or a debit? What do you think? What kind
Debit.
of a pardon?
Debit.
Debit. But for us to come to that conclusion, we need to do something prior to that. What is that? That is why I told you, first you have to go through the list of accounts and identify what each of these account means, whether it is an asset, liability, income, expense, or equity. You have to mark that alongside on the left side, somewhere here, like when you say cash on hand, you can mark it here. If it is an asset, you mark it with an A. You can put a capital A here, right? Second one, cash at bank. If it is an asset, you put a A again here. Likewise, you have to mark everything. Say, for example, you can put A for assets, L for liabilities, I for income, E for expense, and for the equity, you can say capital. You can say capital, C. So, likewise, can you quickly mark all these items? Because after doing that only, you can make a decision what kind of a balance this is, whether this is a debit balance or a credit balance. Because once we know whether what is the class of this account is, then we can decide based on the normal balance concept, we can identify what type of an account it should be. Right? So let's go through one by one. Cash in hand, asset. Cash at bank. I want you all to answer.
Asset.
Asset. Bills receivable.
Asset.
Asset. Anything that is receivable to you is an asset. Then bills payable.
Liability.
Liability. Sundry debtors.
Asset.
Asset. Creditors.
Liability.
Liability. Capital.
Asset.
Capital.
Equal.
That is
It's
an
equity.
equity.
Okay.
This is capital, means the capital that the shareholders have given or the owner of the business have put in. Right? So we call it as a capital, share capital or stated capital, whatever. So capital is an equity component. You have to mark it as C. What is drawings? What is drawings?
Expense.
Negative equity.
No. Negative equity. Very good. So I think I explained this, right? When the owner takes the money out from the business in any form. Now let's say I am putting 50,000 and starting up a business. But if I go and take 5,000 rupees or even any amount for my own purpose, that 5,000 is a drawing where I am withdrawing money from my business. So we call that as a withdrawal by the owner. Withdrawal by the owner. When the owner withdraws money from the business, that is known as a drawing. So we call it as a negative capital. Right? Negative capital. So you have to remember when you say negative capital, what does it mean? Debit or credit?
Debit.
Debit. So this 18,000 is a debit balance. 18,000. I would appreciate if you all can be on mute, and when you talk only you unmute yourselves. So the drawings are a negative capital, which is so the 18,000 debit balance. Okay. Then we go to the right side. Sales.
Income.
Income. Purchases.
Expenses.
Expenses. Carriage inward. Any idea?
Expense.
Expense.
What is it actually?
Which we have sold is coming back to us.
What is it? Can you explain?
Which we have sold has come back to us.
No, that is not this. That is return inwards. That is return inwards, sales return. This is something else. Carriage.
Anything,
What is it?
anything we bring into the business.
What do you mean? Anything that we bring in?
Mm,
So now you all have identified this as an expense. So I'm asking, what is this expenses? Now salaries, when I say salaries, you know. You are paid salaries. So that is why
Like transport charges?
carriage inward.
Yes.
Yes, very correct. That is when you are running a business and you want to bring in goods into your business, sometimes you might have to pay for expenses like to bring in these goods into your business. Goods into your business. Like, say, for example, you have received some goods and it is lying in the ports, okay, in the harbor. So from the harbor, you need to bring it to your shop or to the warehouse. So you need to pay something for transporting the goods, transporting the goods. Right? So actually speaking, carriage inward will be that kind of an expense. That kind of an expense. That is where you will be incurring certain cost of transporting the goods into your business. Into your business. So please make a note. Don't get messed up with the return inward. Return inward is what you said is correct. That is the goods returning to the business. But when you say carriage inward, that is something different. Carriage inward is the transport cost that you will incur to bring in the goods into the business. Like the example that I gave you. From the harbor, you are bringing in the goods to your shop. So that there is a transport involved. because that transport, you can't call it as traveling expenses. Traveling expenses is where people travel, right? Anybody working in the business, when they want to visit one place or when they want to go from one place to the other, that is called as traveling expenses. But when the goods can get transported, that is called carriage inward. That is, you bring in the goods from somewhere outside into the business. So similarly, when you take goods from your place to outside, there is a cost involved, right? Now, say for example, I'll take this example. That will be the easiest example. Now, let's say you go to Damro. So everybody knows Damro. You go to Damro and you purchase some furniture items. And you tell them, look, I need these furnitures to come to my place by next Tuesday. So Damro now has a responsibility to deliver the furniture that you have purchased from their let's say outlet, okay, the showroom, from the showroom to your place, right? But as you know, Damro has its own vehicles, right? They have their lorries or vans, whatever they have. So what they do, they put it into that and they transport it. But just assume that for this particular purchase made by you, they don't have the vehicle with them. So they have to hire a vehicle. They had to hire a vehicle, and in that vehicle only they are going to transport the goods to you, the furnitures to you. Okay, so there is a cost involved. Now they have to pay this rented lorry or maybe whatever the transport mechanism. What do you call this expense? Or how can you call this expense? Anyone? Any idea?
Carriage outward.
Carriage outward, very simple. When you want to bring in goods from outside to your business, you call it carriage inward. So when you take goods from your business to outside, if you had to incur, that is transportation cost, that is a carriage outward. So please remember these two, because in examination, sometimes these type of terms might come. So you have to remember and understand the meaning of the terms. So carriage inward is the transport cost that you incur to bring in goods from outside to the business. Carriage outward is where you incur a transport cost to take goods from your business for delivery purposes or various other kinds. Okay, the transportation cost, right? So that is an expense now. Carriage inward is an expense. Carriage outward is also an expense. Salaries, expense. Advertisement.
Expense.
Advertisement, what do you think?
Expense.
That's an expense.
Expense.
Because in the business, you might have to sometimes incur advertising expenses, promoting products. So you see a lot of advertisements in the newspapers, television, or even there will be advertisements in the websites. So all those are known as advertisement. Then you have insurance. What is this?
Expense.
Expense. Furniture.
Asset.
That is an asset. Now here the furniture, when you say furniture, it is their fixed assets, right? It is their fixed assets. So that is an asset. Stocks.
Assets.
Assets. Office rent.
Expense.
Expense. So now you have gone through all the accounts with the respective class of the account, whether it is asset, liability, income, expense, or capital. And now you know, based on the concept of normal balance, each balance, whether it is a debit or a credit. So can you now put it into the two columns? Debit column and the credit column? Quickly. I'll give you 2 minutes. Quickly.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
So carriage inward and carriage outward, both of are expenses.
Yes, both are expensive. We got transport costs. Both are transport costs. One is to bring in goods to the business. One is to take out from the business. So
Thank you,
inward
sir.
is where you are bringing in goods to the business. Like the example I gave you, from the harbor, you are bringing in it to your showroom. The second one is from the showroom, you are delivering it to a customer. Okay?
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Quickly. So you would have got it correct. If you have followed the steps, you would have got it correct. This is the answer. You can check. Those who haven't done, you can check. Okay? So I hope you would have marked them correctly and put it onto the right column. So if you have done that, you would get 203,400. That is 203,400,000,000. Very important, you have to see what is the currency denomination for this trial balance. So here they say rupees million. So that is why you see here, I have put rupees million. So you have to be very careful with regard to the currency denomination that they have used. Okay? Any questions? Right. We are good to go to the second question. Quickly. Again, I'll give you 3 minutes. So going through the items, first thing is that you will mark all these, whether it is asset, liability or income, expense, and then you have to see where you have to put this, in the debit column or the credit column. So when you do that, you should have the debit total agreeing to the credit total. Debit total agreeing to the credit total. So do you have any items where it might be difficult for you to understand? I don't think so, except for one item, if I'm to explain. So I hope it will be okay with you all, but I just want to ask you one question. Now, when you look at this list of account balances, you get wages and you get salaries also. What is the difference between the two? What is the difference between the two? Wages, or do you know what is wages and what is salaries?
Wages is given on a daily basis.
Salary.
Salary?
Salaries are paid to permanent employees,
Okay.
but wages are paid for temporary.
Very good. Very
Okay.
good. So, very, very correctly said. That is, salaries are paid to permanent kind of employees where there is a contract between the employer and the employee for a fixed sum, right? But whereas wages are of temporary nature, like where you make hourly payment. When somebody comes and works for about 2 hours, you make a payment to them. That is known as wages. Now, in a business concern, you can have both these. Why? The permanent employees, whoever are working, will get salaries. But for your manufacturing or maybe for your other purposes, you might use a labor force which is working on temporary basis, right? So for them, they will get only wages. But end of the day, both are expenses. Both are expenses. Are we done? Do we have the total? What is the total? Any answers? 180,000. 180,000. Correct. And this is how it will look like. I think the date should be 2018, but the answer is same. Okay. Any questions? If you didn't understand anything? So I don't see any difficulty there. More or less, most of the items are very known ones. Okay. Right. So, any questions? Right. So we are done with the trial balance. Right. So I just want to show you something. I don't see maybe there might be. I hope you would have seen the past papers being put in the portal, right? Right. I just want to show you all how the exam question might be, right? I'm just trying to show you a draft, just not to make you all frightened, but just make you all to have some confidence. Can you all see this paper? Can you all see it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is the September 2019 paper, right? So if you really see, this is the question number 1. where I have been telling you about. And this, they say list of accounts, balances, right? List of account balances. So they have given you a list. They have given you a huge list like this, right? And then what they want you to do, you see, right? They want you to prepare the trial balance, you see. So now it's too early. Don't go and try this at home. I don't know whether everybody knows about it, because if you look at this trial balance, there are a lot of items which most of you might have not gone through yet, right? So these terms might not be known to you. It's too early, because there is a lot of things that we have to learn going forward. So once we reach that place only, you will come to know what all these terms are that are appearing here. Some of them are known to you, like the cash and cash equivalent, balances with central bank, those are known. But there are some specific terms where all those are coming from an accounting standard. The standard is SLFRS 9, which we will learn towards the latter part of our module. So this is how the exam question will be. Like, you might get a list of account balance, and based on that, there are some adjustments also given. Once you incorporate the adjustments, you are required to prepare the trial balance. So it's not the trial balance that we did in the class just now. You might not get that kind of a trial balance. The trial balance that you may have to prepare is somewhat a complex one. Okay. So this is just to give you an idea about how will it will look like, right? Okay. So let's get on with the next topic that I wanted to cover today, right? Right. Is it visible to you all?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now, earlier there was a question asking about a compensating error, I think. Yes. So that is what we are going to look at now, right? So this is actually a continuation of the subject matter of trial balance that we are trying to learn, right? Now we have learned how a trial balance will look like, or how you will prepare a trial balance, and so on. Now you understood that when you extract and do a trial balance, the trial balance should balance. Trial balance should balance. But we also learned that even if a trial balance balances, there are certain limitations. Right? And on top of that, what we are going to say now is, even if a trial balance is balanced, there could be so much of errors. And what are those errors? That is what we are going to look at. That is number one. Then, secondly, we also need to look at when a trial balance doesn't balance. That is, the debit total doesn't agree with the credit total. What will happen, or what should we do? So it is very important to know that you can't stop preparing financial statements just because your trial balance is not in agreement. Okay. So what do we need to do is, in such situations, is also very important. We need to know that also. Okay. So that is where the suspense accounts come into the picture. So we are going to learn two things here now. One is the accounting errors. The second one being suspense accounts. So what are accounting errors? Accounting errors are the mistakes committed in bookkeeping and accounting. So accounting errors are what? The errors or the mistakes that a person could do. And mostly it is the person involved in the bookkeeping or accounting function. So what they will do? They will do various types of mistakes. And these mistakes are known as accounting errors. Accounting errors. The mistake may be one relating to routine or one relating to the principle. Now here the term principle is not relating to the school principal, right? You need to check the spellings. It is the concept or theory, right? There could be a theoretical or technical error, or it could be a routine error. You always make that mistake. That becomes routine, isn't it? Now, when you say routine, what do you mean by routine? You do it every day. So there is a mistake which is happening every time. That becomes a routine mistake. They may occur in entering the transactions in the journal. So what do you mean by journal? We have already learned what is a journal. You have a debit and you have a credit, or you have multiple debits or multiple credits. That is your journal. Okay. Subsidiary books is your prime entry books, or they could come in at the time of posting into the ledger. I told you. First thing is journalizing is you will design the debits and the credits. Second step is where you will take those transactions and go and post them. That is the posting. So errors can happen at so many places, where at the time of journalizing, at the time of entering transaction from the subsidiary books or prime entry books, or at the time of posting the transactions to the ledger. So therefore, errors may be committed while recording, classifying, or summarizing the accounting transactions. Okay, so we record transactions, we classify transactions. When you say classify, what does it mean? We classify them whether it is an asset or a liability or income or expense, whatever. That is your classification. And also, when you post transactions, you also do a summarization. So errors can happen at any of these stages. Any of these stages. Right. Now we come to the type of accounting errors. First type of error is known, very common. We call it as the clerical error. What is a clerical error? So you know, in mostly in businesses, the person involved in record keeping or bookkeeping, those type of functions are performed by a person called the clerk. We call them as a clerk. Now, in good old days, even in the banks, the first level staff were called as clerks, right? That is how the term has come in, actually. So, the person who performs the function of maintaining records, performing transactions, recording transactions, that person is called a clerk. When this person makes a mistake due to the volumes of transaction being very high, or due to the tedium of the job, or he can do various mistakes. So those mistakes are commonly said to be clerical errors. That is, this person, so-called the clerk, makes a mistake, and that is called a clerical error. Second type of error is known as the ignorance error. What do you mean by ignorance error? That is, you are not being aware of the distinction between an asset and an expenditure. Very important. If I quickly tell you an account, you should know whether this is an asset or an expenditure. right? I say now furniture, like the early example. Now this furniture could be an asset as well as an expenditure. But you need to make yourself a judgment whether it is an asset or an expenditure. If you are not in a position to do that, that becomes an ignorance error. That becomes an ignorance error. Third error is where you are committing a fraud or you are coming across a fraud. A fraud could be to omit a transaction completely. For example, you have received money but you want to hide away. That is a fraud. Or you are paying for something where the vouchers or the invoices are very fault ones. Bogus invoices. You can't pay for those. Those are becoming frauds. Now, in today's context, you know, there are so much of frauds happening. People do frauds, then credit card frauds are there, online transaction frauds are there. So frauds have gone to a great extent today. In good old days, it is where people who are performing transaction make frauds. Now the frauds have been taken into a higher level where people do frauds out of credit card transactions, ATM transactions, so much of things are happening. Okay. The next error is that we are looking at is called a double entry error. Double entry error. That is failure to post an amount entered in a book of prime entry. So now you can recall we have already learned the books of prime entry. From the books of prime entry, what do? Sorry. At the end of the month, you will take the total and you will go and enter it into your ledger. You will enter it into your ledger. Now, this, you are not doing it. Failure to post an amount entered in a book of prime entry. So you have entered something in the prime entry, books of prime entry, but you are not going and posting it into your ledger. That is basically known as a double entry. Then we call it an error of commission. We call it as an error of commission. Now this is nothing to do with the commission. The term commission has, and this has nothing. Let us try to understand what is error of commission is. Error of commission is posting to an incorrect account of the correct class. Please try to understand this properly. Posting to an incorrect account of the correct class. Right. Now let me give you a transaction. Payment of your mobile bill. Let's say you are running a business and you are paying your mobile bill using your cash. What is the double entry? Where will you debit and where will you credit? Now you have to create payment of your telephone bills. Where will you debit and where will you credit? What are the two accounts involved?
Cash account, telephone bill debit.
Telephone bills debit, cash account,
Credit.
cash account credit. Very good. So when you are saying transactions, we always go and say the debit first. Remember, you have to say the debit first. So that is how the order is. Debit, telephone bills account, and credit, the cash account. That is the correct transaction. That is, you have to post it to the correct account, which is the telephone bills account. And why you say it is the correct class? Because it's an expenditure account. It's an expenditure account. Now, what happens? This bookkeeper, he, by mistake, goes and debits electricity account. He is paying for telephone bills, but he is going and debiting the electricity account. So he is debiting the electricity account and crediting the cash account. Now see what has happened. He has gone and debited an expense account. Yes, electricity is also an expense account. So the class is correct. But has he debited the correct account? No. Instead of telephone bills account, he has gone and debited the electricity account. That is known as error of commission. Error of commission. So what do you mean by error of commission? You have selected the correct class, whether that is asset, liability, income or expense. But you have not posted it to the correct account. You have selected the wrong account. That is an error of commission. An error of commission. Third one, slightly different to the earlier one. Error of principle. Error of principle. What do you mean by that? Posting to an account of an incorrect class. Incorrect class. That is something very fundamental mistake. Right? Let's say an example like this. Right. You are paying 20,000 to service your vehicle. You know, when the vehicle is being used for a certain period, you need to do a service. So you are doing a service by paying 20,000 for your motor vehicle. Right. Can somebody tell me what is the double entry? Now, when I ask for double entry, like you have to create what could be the account. It's all like you have to have some creativity. You can create your own account and give the answer. There is no standard account as such.
Service charge
Yes.
debt 20,000, cash account credit
Right.
20,000.
So you say that you will debit the service charge account 20,000 and credit cash 20,000. Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Right. So you have named it as service charge. That is okay. But what do you understand from here? What is the service charge account is? What type of an account it is?
It's an expense account.
It is an expense account. So you have selected the correct class. You have not made any mistake of principle. Now let us assume you are giving this transaction to be performed by me. Right? Now you are coming and telling me like, okay, we have made a payment of 20,000 to service our car, motor vehicle. Can you perform this transaction? So what I do is, I go and debit the motor vehicle account and credit cash. I go and debit the motor vehicle account and credit cash. Is my transaction correct or wrong? Is it correct or incorrect?
Correct.
Correct.
Incorrect.
Incorrect. Why incorrect?
Motor vehicle is a asset account.
Very good. Motor vehicle is an asset account. Now you see, when you are doing a transaction, you have to perform the transaction to the correct class. If you perform it to the incorrect class, then it is an error of principle. Okay. When you select the correct class and put it to the wrong account, that is an error of commission. So what happens? Candidates get messed up with these two. Error of commission and error of principle, there is a clear difference. What is error of principle? Where you will select the wrong class. Like in this case, instead of an expense account, I am selecting an asset account. But error of commission means what? You have selected the correct class, but put it to the wrong account. Put it to the wrong account. So that is a error of commission. Please remember those, the clear difference between error of commission and error of principle. because sometimes these might be tested in the examination in the form of an MCQ, right? They might give you this and they might ask what type of an error is this. Okay, so you have to be very careful. So all these errors can happen at the stage of posting. Do you understand that? Because these errors cannot happen at the time of journalizing. It can happen only at the time of posting the transaction to the ledger. Posting the transaction to the ledger. Okay, right. The next set of errors. Error of omission. Error of omission. Now we have looked at error of commission. Now error of omission. What do you mean by error of omission? Failure to enter in accounts, both the debit and credit. So can you recall the transaction I told you? A customer who is in a hurry to deposit 20,000 to the account, he comes and all of a sudden he goes, you also forget it. The transaction is completely omitted, debits and credits. That is error of omission. Entry error. Entry error, very simple. Entering and posting an incorrect amount. I wanted you to perform a transaction for 20,000, but you have performed it for 2,000. Or I wanted you to perform a transaction for 50,000, you have performed it for 500,000. This is a very common error where a lot of people do. At work, a lot of people will do. Due to the stress also this can happen. Right? So what do you mean by entry error? Entry error is entering and posting an incorrect amount. Please underline incorrect amount. That is where the importance is. Error of duplication. I have already explained it. What is that? Enter in the same transaction twice. Enter in the same transaction twice. So it doesn't mean that error of duplication is enter in the transaction twice, but you can enter any times. Still that is going to be an error. All these happens at the time of making the prime entry. So it could be from the prime entry books to the main ledger, or it could be directly to the cash book, anywhere, but it is from the prime entry. Another set of errors are where you will have a failure to include an account balance in the trial balance. Now earlier you saw you extract accounts and their balances. Suppose if you miss out one account, what will happen? Your trial balance will not agree, isn't it? Let's say out of the total list of accounts, you forget to take the cash account. So your trial balance will not agree. Stating the amount wrongly in the trial balance. Stating the amount wrongly in the trial balance. So the account balance is 65,000. You go and enter it into the trial balance as 56,000. I'm just taking an example. Or you have a balance in the trial account balance is 50,000. You go and enter it as 5,000. Stating the amount wrongly in the trial balance. Third one. Stating the balance on the wrong side in the trial balance. You see, you have taken a balance, let's say debtors. So you have a balance of 25,000. But when you are going and entering in the trial balance, what do you do? Instead of putting it on the debit side, you put it to the credit side. Again, there will be a mismatch in the trial balance. What happens? Then you will make a mistake in your trial balance. Your trial balance will be in error. Your trial balance will have an error. So, the three types of errors that we looked at the time of posting, at the time of prime entry, and at the time of extracting a trial balance. All these will have an impact on your trial balance. Okay? Here comes compensating error. The question raised by one person earlier. So now we look at what is the compensating error. Compensating error is accounting entries that do not disturb the balancing of the trial balance, but which are errors. So compensating error, what it will do is it will not disturb the trial balance, which means the trial balance will be balanced. But what has actually happened? It has got compensated. So the compensation can happen in several ways. Like one example, you have received a cash deposit of 10,000 and a withdrawal of 10,000. Okay, you have received a deposit of 10,000 and a withdrawal also for 10,000. You enter them both erroneously. What happens? One error compensates the other error. Why? What happens? When you receive 10,000 rupees as a deposit, you go and enter it as a withdrawal. So what will happen? When you say withdrawal, you will credit cash and you will debit the customer. Then there is a withdrawal for 10,000, which you enter it as a deposit. So again, there will be cash debit and credit the customer. But you have made an error as a whole, but the error is compensating each other. Or there could be like where you have extracted a trial balance. So your debtors balance is, let's say, 55,000. Your debtors balance is 55,000. But due to an error, you go and enter it as 50,000. Right? So what happens? Whereas your debit total should have been 55,000, you enter it as 50,000. Similarly, you will have a credit balance. Let's say creditors will be 65,000, but you enter it as 60,000. Now what happens? In both places, you have left out 5,000. And this error of 5,000 will compensate each other. But it will not disturb the trial balance. So your trial balance will be still balanced. That is what compensating error is. Right? So I hope you have, the person who asked what is a compensating error would have understood. So compensating error is, there are two errors where one will compensate the other. Right? Where you enter 10,000 more in another place and you reduce 10,000 in another place. Likewise. Due to that fact, your trial balance is in order. Okay? So this is no guarantee of the accuracy of accounting, because despite these errors, the trial balance will perfectly balance. Therefore, when you say the trial balance agrees, means it's only a prima facie proof only. It's not conclusive. We don't say it is a conclusive proof, because we know there could be a lot of errors in a trial balance. The next type of error is where we call it as a transposition error. Can somebody tell me what is a transposition error is? Does anyone know what a transposition error is? Or at least by looking at this, can somebody tell me what is a transposition error is? Any idea? What is a transposition error? There is another name, special name.
When the transaction is recorded in the append site, for example, for the 5005, when we are recording.
So what do you call it? What do you call it? How do you call it? Have you heard of the term inversion? Have you heard of the term inversion? So we call this transposition error to be an inversion error. Inversion error. What do you mean by an inversion error? Right? So as clearly said, instead of 01, you put 10. Instead of 45, you put 54. Those type of mistakes can happen. When you are performing large amount of transactions or large volume of transactions, people can do these type of mistakes. Instead of 36, you put 63. Possible. But how do we identify this? Whether an error is a transposition error or not. That is what we are trying to understand. Right. So, what is a transposition error? Accounting entries that do not disturb the balancing of the trial balance, but which are still errors. Unless accounting is computerized, transposition errors are common at each of the accounting stages as mentioned earlier. That's why, like, when there is human intervention, this error can happen, right? As long as you have this manual intervention of human, the transposition error can happen. So when something happens like that, what do you do? What do you do? So you have a debit total now in the trial balance, and you have a credit total also in the trial balance. Okay. Generally, we expect both these to be equal. Both these to be equal. But when there is a difference between the two, when there is a difference between the debit total and the credit total, the first thing that we need to do is go and check whether there is a transposition error. Whether there is a transposition error. Right. Now let us assume that the difference that you have in the debit total and the credit total is, let's say, 12,690 rupees. 12,690 rupees. So you have 5 digits here, 12,690. The first thing that we do is we take each of these digits, 1, 2, 6, 9, and of course 0. You take these individual digits and add them together. So that is what you see here. 1 plus 2 plus 6 plus 9. Of course, you don't need to add the 0. So you add those, you get 18. Again, you have a problem. Until you reach a single digit, you have to add it. So what do we do now? We take the 18 and again we add it 1 plus 8. So you get a number here now. What is the number? It is number 9. If the answer that you get by adding the individual digits of your trial balance difference, and if it is 9, then we call it as a transposition error. Transposition error. Very, very important. Transposition error. What is that? You take the difference between the debit total and the credit total. Debit total and the credit total. And you find out the individual digits total. until it reaches a single digit. And then you have to say whether that's a transposition error or not. So for you to have a transposition error, what should happen? The ultimate single digit should be 9. Ultimate single digit should be 9. So how can this happen? That is what is reflected in this. Right? It can happen like this. 01 becomes 10. 23 becomes 32. Or you enter it like that. 78 being entered as 87. So the chart that you see here is the probability that there could be a transposition error. The probability of there could be a transposition error. Transposition error. Okay. So just have a look at it, how these numbers can cause a transposition error. So every column will reflect the ultimate number. You will see it is 9. So here 9. This column will reflect a difference of 9. This column will reflect a difference of 18, which is again 1 plus 8 is 9. Again here 27 means 2 plus 7, 9. Likewise, every number here, when it gets interchanged, it results in a value of 9. So that is why we call it as inversion. We call it as inversion. Inversion means an interchange like this. An interchange like this. Hope it is understood. Right. So that is all about the errors, accounting errors that you might come across. So in bookkeeping, what happens when you have these type of errors, you will have to adjust it. You will have to adjust it into your trial balance. Not only the transposition error, but there could be various types of errors. So before you prepare your final financial statements, you have to cleanse or remove all these errors. You have to adjust everything. And thereafter only you can prepare your financial statements. But what happens during the interim period when you have a trial balance which doesn't balance, where the debit total and the credit total are not equal? You can't stop there. You have to proceed further. Right? You have to proceed. You have to go forward. So how you proceed further is, we will park the difference. We will park the difference in an account called suspense account. But in general terms, suspense account gives a different meaning. Right? In banking business, you see, when you go to your respective banks and look at your ledger, there will be thousands of suspense accounts. But in accounting as a subject, when we learn what is meant by suspense account is where it is a parking account of your difference in the trial balance. When your trial balance has a difference, you park it in the suspense account. Okay? So what do you mean by suspense? Suspense is associated with uncertainty. You are not sure whether there is a mistake or not. We don't know. So in order to discover that error, what you need to park the difference in a suspense account. So what do you mean by that? Where the total of the debits fails to match the total of the credits, the difference is placed for the time being in a suspense account because of the uncertainty as to how it should be dealt with. So you are not sure. How am I going to trace this difference? So until you discover that, what you need to do? You need to put it on a suspense account, whether it could be a debit or a credit. So upon detecting the cause of the difference, the uncertainty will be resolved. And parallelly, your suspense account also becomes zero. That is the very important part. Your suspense account has to become zero. Otherwise, there is a problem. Right? So when you can create a suspense account to resolve an error in the trial balance. But end of the day, when you finalize your financial statements, you have to ensure that the suspense account balance is zero. Suspense account balance is zero. That is very, very important. So in order to rectify the errors, what do? You have to pass journal entries. You have to pass journal entries to correct the errors that you have detected. And there could be instances where sometimes you might not be able to identify the errors also. Okay. So in such instances, you might have to write off the differences. You have to write off the differences. So that is at a higher level you do it and in businesses. But generally, we expect the trial balances when they have a difference, you park it in a suspense account, and subsequently you find out the errors that have caused this difference and you rectify them. So when you rectify, you have to pass the double entries. You have to put the new debit and the credit. So when you put the debit and a credit, what happens? One leg of the transaction, that is either it could be a debit or a credit, one of the debit or the credit will go into this suspense account. So when you complete all the transactions that you have discovered to rectify the error, the suspense account balance becomes zero. That is where you need to understand. So you can create a suspense account to balance a trial balance, but end of the day, it has to be zero. It has to be zero. Right. So that brings us to the end of suspense account. If you have any questions, you can ask. If you have any questions, you can ask. Right. So what I'm going to do you now is I'm going to show you the question paper of 2021, January 2021. So this is question number 1, right? Where you are given a trial balance, you see. So it is not always the case that where you will get a list of account balances and you do the trial balance. Now here the trial balance is already given to you, right? So if you want, you can just go through. I hope the paper is already given to you in the portal. You have a lot of items here, right? Now when you go down, you will see something very interesting. What you have? You have something called the suspense account. Do you see this here? Can you see this suspense account? What they have done? Their trial balance does not balance. Even though they say 520,000 there, what is actually has happened? Their debit side is less by 10,000. Their credit side is 520,000, but debit side is only 510,000. So they have a difference. So they are not in a position to identify what has caused this error. So what have they done? They have put 10,000 on the debit side and said suspense account, so that the trial balance is now balanced. But that is not the question here. The question is, let's see what they are asking. Right. Now, this is too much now. Let's not talk about it right now. They are giving you certain adjustments, right? Right. So why all these adjustments are given is for you to rectify the suspense account. So when you do all these adjustments in your in the pertaining to this question, you will come to a situation where the suspense account becomes 0 and rest of your balances will get adjusted accordingly. Rest of your balances get adjusted accordingly. So it is very important to know how you will adjust the double entries for this. So for each and every, we will do it in the class towards the latter part. But for the timing, I'm telling you that when you want to rectify the suspense account, what will happen? Every adjustment will have an impact on this suspense account balance. So you will have a debit or credit somewhere else in the trial balance, and a debit or credit will come to this 10,000, so that it will get reduced. Little by little, it get reduced, and ultimately, once you have rectified all the errors, that suspense account balance 10,000 will become 0. That is the ultimate objective. You have to reach out to that situation. Okay, so that is why when you have suspense accounts, you have to be very careful, because if you make an error in your double entries, you can make mistakes. Okay, right. So we can conclude at that point. But I think there is a question from one student where they want to know how to do this bank reconciliation second question. So of course I will do it in the class next week, but just to give you an idea on the second question, right? I'll just explain it so that you can do it. We'll give it a try. Right. You can see this, right? So the question says bank reconciliation statements prepared as at 2 dates. Now we learned that bank reconciliation, you prepare it as at a particular date. Now here comes a question where they say you prepare it for 2 dates. But it doesn't matter. Whether it is 1 day or 2 days, it doesn't matter. End of the day, you have a question to prepare a bank reconciliation as at 21st January. That is one question to you. And another question is as at 26th January. Now let us understand what are these 2 dates. So look at the cash book and the bank statement. Right? Look at the cash book and the bank statement. And can somebody tell me what are these 2 dates, 21st and 26th? Can somebody tell me what is 21st and what is 26th?
The accounting period.
Not really. It's not really the accounting period. But when you look at this, what can you say? Just look at this. This is the bank statement. So what is 21st and what is 26th?
End date and start date.
Yes. So they are trying to question you on a reconciliation to be done for the opening balance and the closing balance. Am I correct? You are supposed to do a reconciliation between the opening balance and the closing balance. So opening balance here is 150 rupees overdraft. When you say OD, it's overdraft. And here 26, it is 9,350. Similarly, you have an opening balance of 1,260 in your cash book and a closing balance of 2,210. So the reconciliation is actually between the opening balances and the closing balances. So you need to perform two sets of reconciliation. One reconciliation is to match the 1260 against the OD of 150. And the second reconciliation is to balance the 2210 against the 9350. Okay, there is a little bit of a tricky part here. That is what you need to capture. Okay, but the basic idea behind the question is that you reconcile 1260 against the overdraft of 150. And the second part, that is as of 21st. When you say 26th, sorry, 9315 against 2210 or 2210 here. Okay, so give it a try. We'll do it in the class next week. Okay, right, so let's stop there, and I hope you have understood what we learned today. So please do revise and keep on revising. Don't leave or take a break, because I'm told that most likely if the situation improves, they might have the exams in October. So better for you all to start revising whatever that we have learned now itself without waiting till the last moment. Okay, because from here onwards we will be little by little getting into the complex areas. So I mean, in another 2 sessions, maybe the second session, I would go into the accounting standards. So you have to be very careful. Okay, so by that time you need to have no, not really. Still, the institute has not decided to have classes on the weekdays. I will anyway let you know in advance. Maybe 1 week in advance, I will let you know whether we will have the classes starting when we will start having the weekdays classes. Okay, right. Take care and goodbye.